All right. So again, welcome to our overview for face-to-face. Um, I want you to just be aware, if you were not aware, that on October 14th, all of our Brookview Pandas parents can elect for them to begin full face-to-face instruction or continue universal remote learning. So for this semester, and our semester ends December 18th, those are the two choices. I want to thank every parent that took the time to do the survey, whether it was over the phone and we did it for you, or if you did it on your own, because that helped out so much. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that later. That data is how we are driving our instructional models and the choices that we're making for children, to make sure that we are doing what's best for kids and supporting both our face-to-face learners and our at-home learners. If you have questions throughout this presentation, I want to encourage you to just go ahead and unmute yourself and ask, or you may drop them in the chat. If you're joining by phone, literally just unmute and just ask your questions. There's no such thing as a silly question, and I want to make sure that everyone feels comfortable and informed throughout this. So there's some face-to-face key considerations that I want us to go through and kind of talk through. And the first one being health and safety is of the utmost importance for us, but also curriculum and instruction, because there are some implications with us having split building, half or more than half at home and the other face-to-face. There are some curriculum and instruction implications that are impacted by these choices. And I want to make sure that every parent is informed as it relates to that. So when we're talking about health and safety, I'm going to talk about a couple of things. We're going to quickly, the data that was shared with me from the superintendent, which is the most recent data that we received yesterday. Our mask and face coverings, we're going to talk in depth about that. Health checks and monitoring, social distancing, class size, our supplies and instructional materials, water, as well as school nutrition, because there are some factors that I need parents to be aware of, and just make sure that we are totally understand what's going to happen here. So this is the data that was shared. Uh-oh. Can you guys still see the screen? Because I can't. All right. As long as it's still there, I can talk through it because I have my other slide decks. So here's the data that has been shared, and our district is going by a 14-day positive trend rate per 100,000. So we had to have consecutive data trends of data going down. I want to be transparent with you. This data is changing daily, and as of now, I want you to be informed. I want you to, if we had positive trends, which is what they had when they were making decisions from each phase, trending downward, then that is how the decision is being made as far as our progressions. Now, is the data changing? Is there a data lag? Absolutely, which is why I want you to be informed and make sure that you visit fultoncountygeorgia.gov/COVID-19 epidemiology reports, because that's how you stay abreast. They have to do these reports by the week. If you want to know how your community, and particularly our community, is doing, are our numbers trending up or our numbers trending down, this is where we need to go. Notice the data that I'm sharing here. It ends September 25th. So there should be new data that you need to be aware of and be very aware of as you are informed parents in this district. I also want to encourage you to participate and listen in on your school board meetings. They are always publicly posted on Fulton School's website so that you can be informed, as well as raise any questions or concerns that come to mind. So I wanted to be transparent. This is the data that we are constantly receiving from the district. But I am a steward of looking at our epidemiology reports to see how East Point is doing. All right. Now, I mentioned that we're going to talk about these masks. So as we've been going through these phases, we have had some successes and some failures when it comes to these masks. We've had children come with masks, but they're not their size. So a mask doesn't do any good if it doesn't fit the child's actual face and is framed for their nose and their mouths. The whole purpose of the mask is a protective covering to keep the germs out and keep all germs from transporting to and from. I'm asking for your help here, that if you send your child to school, make sure that it is a child's size mask and that it fits appropriately for your kid. And I also want you to consider packing more than one mask in your bag for your kids. We know masks are mandatory for all students and staff, and they're also required for parents. I've been having an interesting time with parents coming to the school and they have on no mask. Number one, there's no entry in our buildings without mask. Parent or not, the rules are the rules for safety for children and for staff. So we want to make sure we have masks. And what I want you to understand is Fulton County is not allowing those vented masks. So those masks that has those little circular filters, we can no longer use those. Per the CDC, they allow germs to still come out and they do not stop germs from going in. So we are no longer allowed to wear those. Now, our kids have been amazing so far through this as far as being in compliance. We have not had kids that have like, no, I'm not wearing my mask. But if a child should fail to comply with the mask mandate, or an adult, they will not be permitted to participate in the face-to-face instruction, and the adult will be asked to leave because safety comes first. Are there any questions here?
We don't have any questions in the chat, but please feel free, if you have any questions at any time, please feel free to unmute your mic.
All right, so let's talk about these health checks. So now more than ever, especially while we're approaching flu season, temperature changes, seasonal allergies, and everything that typically happens in the traditional school year around this time of year, I need your help, and help, like more help. Students have to be checked before they come to school. So before they get to our school building, before they're sent to those school buses, please help us by doing your own safety check for your child. If they have a fever before they leave your house, a cough, shortness of breath that's not attributed to another health concern like asthma, or they have difficulty breathing, if they're fatigued or muscle or body aches, headaches, if they tell you their nose is stuffy and they can't smell, sore throat, diarrhea, and vomiting, those are COVID-related symptoms. I'm asking you to keep them at home and to err on the side of caution. If your child tells you they don't feel good, believe them. I know sometimes kids like to pull the wool over their eyes because they might not want to come to school that day. But in this situation, in our time now in the pandemic, we need to err on the side of caution either way. Because if that child was just by chance telling the absolute truth and not fluffing it a little bit or over exaggerated, we don't want them to be susceptible unnecessarily to any illness or any issue. I have to be transparent here. This week alone, I had to send home 4 kids that came to school truly sick. We can't have that, guys. I need your support. I need you to spread the word. And it wasn't as if it wasn't known. The kids shared that they told their parents they didn't feel good. But like at this point, we can't play around with it. If a child does exhibit any of those symptoms while they're at school, because sometimes symptoms come later, and so they genuinely were fine and all of a sudden they are sick, we have to isolate those children, and we have an isolation room now. We have to contact the parents, and then the parents have to immediately come and get their children so that we can ensure the safety. And then they won't be allowed to return until we have documentation that they are COVID symptom free. So I want us to help ourselves in this by just doing self checks. And simple things is check those temperatures before they walk out the door. Now, what we will be doing throughout the day and what we're already doing is we do the temperature checks before they leave the cars, when they get off the school buses, before they enter our building, and then we do them throughout the day randomly, just to make sure that, because sometimes things and situations can happen where fevers do come about. If a child has a fever of 100.4, we have to call a parent and they have to come get their kid. And so anything in that 99 range, we are watching closely because it could be a symptom that we need to check further for. Any questions there?
I have a question. I'm sorry,
Yes.
just offset that. Hey, Ms. Wallace.
Hey.
I got in a little late. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing the most and critical part. So are we saying that them returning to school is mandatory at some point and that's been identified?
No. We are saying that it is optional. Parents have choices. So you guys elected your choice for this semester. So you either elected for your kid to stay at home for this first semester, and our first semester ends December 18th. And then we go on Christmas break and we come back in January. So by January, we'll see what happens from there. Or your kids, you elected for your children to come face to face for the 5 days a week, because that's what we're transitioning into next week.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions, guys? Again, there is no such thing as a dumb question. I need all my parents to be fully informed. All right, so let's talk about this social distancing. So we are going to do our very, very, very best with social distancing. Right now, we've been teaching our little pandas to walk like zombies or mummies, where their arms are extended so that if they are touching the person in front of them, they're too close. And that helps give them a gauge and teaching them about their own personal bubbles as they're walking. And I have to say, our pandas are doing a phenomenal job, and our teachers are doing a phenomenal job with that. So it's not a non-negotiable. Like, our kids have to socially distance. So what you can do to help us with that is teach that at home. So we have to have space. So if they're close, all right, guys, we're going to practice at the grocery store walking in our bubble. So that means that we have to be this far apart instead. But, that helps us get them in the routine of the safety. Now, we know kids play, but right now in the pandemic, that whole horse playing thing is not an option. Because if they're not socially distancing, then that's an issue. And we have to keep that in mind. It then puts safety at risk. Because if you're horse playing and your mask comes off and you are asymptomatic, now we have a whole bigger situation. So I wanted parents to be aware about the expectation, and go ahead and help us by teaching that to your kids and sharing that with other families that you may know. Any questions here, guys?
Nope, crystal clear.
All right.
Thank you.
So here's the thing too. I wanted to make sure that my families were aware. We internally are doing what we can to socially distance. The CDC has given social distancing recommendations, but as of now, there have not been state or district changes to class sizes. So, like in phase 1, phase 2, phase 1, phase 3, and phase 4, there have been really small face-to-face sizes, right? Because we are having only 25% of our kids, and so it might be 4 or 8 kids in a classroom. That is not the reality of a 5-day regular school day. So I want to make sure that's emphatically clear. The class sizes are still the class sizes. So for kindergarten through second, they can go up to 23 kids. Third, fourth, and fifth can go up to 33. We are not going there. I'm going to talk a little more about that. I am doing all I can to systematically and strategically reduce how many kids are in the classroom in an interesting way. And I want to be transparent about that. So there are no reduced class sizes. And I want to let you know what the plan is, because that is the reality. The state has not changed our class sizes. Therefore, the district cannot change the class size requirements. Any questions there?
Okay, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so in the hallway, they're able
Uh-huh.
to social distance.
Yes,
When they're
ma'am.
transitioning to other places, they're going to transition. But the most critical part of them being in the classroom, they're not social distance.
We have our desks spread out just like this picture here, and that's why I put it there. So all of our classrooms are set up like testing settings, right?
Okay.
Our school governance council voted to help me because I went to them and plead. That's the governing body, which is why I'm always saying I want more parents to join. I need more parents on this board because they are my governing body. So at our last SGC meeting, they helped me in this process of approving for me to purchase at least some protective barriers. Now the CDC says there's no guarantee that these barriers work, but I in my heart have to make sure I feel comfortable with our children, right? Being safe.
Right.
So with them approving that, we put in the order and the recommendation for the barriers. We're just waiting on them to arrive so that we have at least a clear partition for every child at their individual desk.
Gotcha.
So that's what we're doing because I cannot say that I won't end up with 21 third graders. Like it just depends on enrollment. So I want it to be, that's why I'm being transparent here.
Okay.
Because parents have to make the best decision for their children in this situation.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Any other questions there? Because that was a big topic that I wanted to make sure we were clear about.
Okay. I'm clear.
All right. Now let's talk about these school supplies. So one of the things that we did early when we saw things not going back to normal was we went out and solicited with business partners, and they donated our school supplies and helped us to make sure every single child has what they need. If your child does not have school supplies, you need to let the school know, and we can make arrangements for you to pick them up because we have donated school supplies for every kid in this building. Now here's the thing. Your kid needs to keep up with their school supplies because they can't share. So, in a typical last year, I said back in the day, last year, if a kid needed a pencil, they can go in the pencil box and get a pencil. Now we have to consider how many hands are touching. We can't share materials. I can't have them sharing glue sticks and scissors like I would typically do. So hence, we gave every single kid a supply kit for that purpose. Each kid needs to bring their supplies, the basics. You don't have to bring everything, but paper, pencil, crayons, the basics with you. Notebook paper. Bring those things labeled for your child because every kid got the same materials. So every kid had the same stuff. So all you have to do is make sure their names are on it when you send them. And then let your kids know we cannot share. Our kids are so friendly and they're so helpful. We've been teaching them to share. And now here we go having to say, you can't share those pencils. You can't give them your eraser. Like our kids were known for like lending a helping hand. But now we have to kind of pull back a little bit with that and say, so now guys, everybody uses their own supplies. And this is why. And I need parent help with that conversation for little people to rationalize that. Because in their mind, they've been taught to help and be kind to others. Now, my 2nd through 5th grade, so I'm thankful that we were able to stretch those devices down to 2nd grade. My next help and hope is we can get devices into 1st grade's hand and kindergarten and pre-K. I just haven't, again, I was sharing with one of the parents who came on earlier that we were able to get a grant. We have a $10,000 grant to help towards devices. However, the devices are on back order until January. So it still doesn't help me right now with what I need for our family. So I'm still trying to circumvent that and figure out our best ways. But those who do have devices currently, which is 2nd grade through 5th grade, you please, parents, help us with this. Charge the devices and send them to school charged, and make sure that they are in their backpacks so that they stay safe. And if your kid needs a book bag, let us know and we'll give you one until we have none left. But we need those devices to come charged because now that we have to teach, and our teachers are now teaching face-to-face kids and remote kids throughout the day, these devices, if they come in already dead, we're already starting behind the 8 ball because we have to keep each kid at their own area. So if their device is not charged, that's a problem if the teacher's displaying something in Microsoft Teams. So keep that in mind and help us out with that. Are there any questions with that?
No, ma'am, but I have a quick comment. If you all did not receive your student supply pack, I put my email address in the chat. If they didn't receive that, or a book bag. But those materials that we sent home, the manipulatives and all of that, those books, they do not need to bring those books every day. They are super, super heavy in their little book bags. And those kids are walking like zombies because their book bags are so heavy. They don't need those workbooks unless the teacher requests them.
And
So
the teachers will let you know.
Yes.
Like the teachers will let you know via dojo or a text blast, like, hey, send the iReady workbook home. But until then, you do not have to bring them with you. They are extremely heavy. They really are, especially our kindergartners. Yes. And then our fifth graders have one for every content area. All right. So let's talk about water. Something as simple as a water fountain has now become a different look for schools. Please allow your students to bring in personal water bottles, but when they bring them, make sure they're labeled with their first and last names. If it is a common name, because we do have some kids that have the same first and the same last name and the same spelling, make sure you put that middle initial for us so we can make the difference. For example, I have 2 Camerons, first and last name, the exact same in 3rd grade. So I have to use their middle initial to distinguish which one when I call parents, when I send items home. So just make sure it's labeled. We, per the CDC recommendations, it has been asked that we do not utilize our water fountains. Until I get the kits that we ordered for us to be able to allow the kids to go touchless to refill their water bottles, I've just covered all our water fountains until then. And so, of course, I have some water bottles, some, small 8-ounce bottles if a kid gets thirsty that we can give throughout the day, which is something that I want to ask for help. If you want to donate water to the school, bottled waters, please do so, because they can't use the water fountains because of the touching, and our fountains are not touchless. So until those kits come in that were ordered that are on back order, I just need us to keep it safe. And so we're doing the bottled waters, and teachers have, most of the teachers have purchased extra bottled waters too, just so if a kid gets thirsty after recess or PE, that we have them on hand. But we are also giving milk or juice during breakfast and lunch, so that also gives them additional opportunities there. Any questions there?
No questions, but we had a donation, a parent donation. The James family is going to donate some water to us.
Oh, that'll be awesome. And when we do the donations, just make sure they're the little ones, because kids waste the big bottles. But that would be very, very helpful, because as they go out to recess, and now because they have to keep those masks on unless the teacher spread them out, like we have trained our teachers, they can spread them out and give them a mask downtime in their own bubble. But masks are supposed to stay on except for when they're doing high exertion activities. So even in PE, we are kind of changing what we're doing. We're doing PE, but we're doing PE safely. Our equipment is non-porous. So if we use any equipment like a hula hoop, that's because we can wipe it down. But if it's like those styrofoam balls and things that we cannot disinfect, we are not using any non-porous materials. So I just want to make sure that that is clear as well. All right, now this is going to be the hardest change for my parents, and it has already been kind of challenging for the parents that are very used to just being in our building, because we have that culture of just, hey, come to the school. And we have always had that open door. But now, because of the pandemic, I can only have approved face masks are required for parents and visitors entering the school building. And you can't come in the building unless it is essential business, like a student registration or a student withdrawal. Not early checkouts, like you would have to wait outside and then we'll have to pull your kids. It has to be essential business only, just because of the contact tracing and the safety factor for children and schools. So parents will not be permitted to visit their child's classrooms right now, which I know is a huge difference, because that's always been something that welcomed. Please go see your child's classroom. But right now we cannot, just to assure the safety, the social distancing, and compliance as it relates to the amount of people in our building at a certain time throughout the day. Any questions there?
We're looking good in the chat.
All right. So let's go through school nutrition. So, of course, breakfast and lunch will be provided. Breakfast will be eaten in the classroom, and then lunch will may be eaten in the classroom or the cafeteria. When we initially start this face-to-face, our kids will eat in the classroom. Number one, because I have to gauge how many parents are actually, like, we have a lot of parents that sign up for face-to-face, but I need to be able to ensure that we can truly socially distance, and our cafeteria is pretty small. So to avoid that, we've come up with creative ways in the classroom for the kids to have lunch and watch movie, like make it a fun experience where they still socially interact, but in smaller settings compared to a whole cafeteria full of kids. So currently, that is what Brookview will be doing for breakfast and for lunch. All right, now the heaviest thing that I wanted to talk about is how your elections on your survey impacts our school. And I need you to understand what's happening in the classrooms because of the way we have to teach differently compared to last year. So I'm going to go into our instructional models. I'm going to talk about our scheduling, attendance and engagement, and then also a little bit on grading. All right. So the first thing you need to know, this semester and in this pandemic, Fulton County has approved 3 models, and these are the 3 choices that we are allowed to use in our buildings. So either I can have simultaneous instruction happening where our teacher teaches either face-to-face or remote all day. So let me be clear about that. With simultaneous instruction, our teachers are teaching kids virtually and face-to-face at the same time. And let me be clear, through these phases, it has been really taxing and really hard on the teachers because we don't necessarily have all the equipment that we need for it to be effective, truly. It takes a skill set to navigate both the digital and technological world versus face-to-face instruction with students and their needs. And it is extremely hard for teachers. The other model is the separated instruction. And that is where, and I'm sorry, there's an error. Simultaneous that they're teaching both, not either. Separated is where they're teaching either or. So either you're face-to-face or you're remote all day. And then segmented. That's where the teacher teaches a couple of periods face-to-face and a couple of periods remote throughout the day. Based on the data, meaning the survey responses that we got from our parents, and we had 96% of our parents. We were only missing 17 parents for our entire building to complete their survey, which was amazing. So again, thank you. With that, we looked at the grade level numbers. We looked at the number of, like, the total enrollment. For example, if first grade has 72 enrolled, but 26 of them have elected to stay at home, and that means the rest of those students are coming face-to-face, I need to consider a model where my teachers aren't stretched so thin and where each group of kids gets the best academic service needed. So for that grade level, 26 kids can be one remote teacher assigned. So one teacher who will teach all the kids virtually, while the other teachers teach the face-to-face with less kids. So the remaining kids then get split by those other 3 teachers on the team. So if there's a 4-person team of first grade teachers, 26 are virtual, there's one of those teachers is only online. The other 3 will split the remainder, those 40 kids divided by 3. And what that means is we have way safer scenarios than with less kids in each teacher's class. Does that make sense?
That's really well thought out. I'm sorry, I had no question. That was really well thought
And
out.
so
I like
that is what we're doing. Now here's the thing. So we have to think creative. That's how I'm gonna say I'm gonna talk about this creativity that's going on. So the segmented model, like for I have fourth and fifth grade are departmentalized. That means that one teacher teaches one subject, then kids usually rotate to the next class for the next subject, and then rotate to the third class for the other subjects, right? We can't rotate children. So what we're doing, our teachers will move. The teachers will roll on their little carts and go to the next classroom. The kids will stay put. And then during that day, the teachers will use at some points, they will simultaneously teach their virtual and their face-to-face kids for like their whole group. And then they'll break into small groups. When they're in small groups, I might pull my remote kids on Monday for that direct instruction with me while my face-to-face kids are working asynchronously on a tech tool to still learn. And then I'm gonna swap on Tuesday. So Tuesday, my face-to-face kids get my one-on-one time at the small group, and my asynchronous learners will work independently remotely. So we have to be very creative in this process. So with that means we have to shuffle some kids. So if kids or parents elected for their children to stay home, your homeroom teacher may change for a couple of reasons. I had to consider, number one, who's best fit for technology. Like if you're going to be my remote teacher, I need you to be a real tech strong or high engagement teacher. You cannot be a boring remote teacher when kids are at home and they can lay on their bed. They can be in that, like I have to have, and you have to be going to be truly in full throttle with that to support the kids at home. So that's challenging. And then for the face-to-face one, what do I need? I need the ones that are going to be no hose bar with that classroom management, so that we don't have any issues or behaviors, but also engagement for face-to-face. And so we had to think about the qualifications of the teachers. I also had to consider, do any of my teachers have any pre-existing medical conditions themselves? What's safe for them in that process as well? And then which model makes sense based on the numbers? So like some grade levels had almost half their kids not coming back face-to-face. Okay, so then that means if it's a 4-person teacher team, if I have four second grade, well, let's say 4 kindergarten teachers, and I have half the kindergarten not coming back, then 2 of those homerooms then become a remote homeroom. And we move those kids that signed up for virtual all into the virtual, and the face-to-face, we move those children into the face-to-face classes so that we don't have to keep moving kids around. But that's the flexibility for parents. So your kid may be changed to a different homeroom. Now, here's what my teachers are doing. We're planning together. So whether they're face-to-face or remote, the same instruction should be happening and will be happening because we're co-planning with them. My ELA coach, math coach, and CST are really sitting side by side and mapping out the instructions so it mirrors itself, so not one group gets cheated of the opportunity. The other thing too is parents have to understand that. So what happens if the data shifts again? And parents see the news or things shift and parents say, oh, never mind, my kid's not coming back face to face. What do I then need to do? I need to reshuffle again because I might now have 75% of my students at home remotely, which means I might need to take one of those teachers that was face to face, and now you need to be a remote teacher because there's more kids there than it is here face to face. And so, I mean, I just want to be transparent with you and make sure that that is something that everyone understands. And that's why I put it in the newsletter. That's why I sent it in the email blast. Or I posted on Dojo just so parents can kind of wrap their brains around this shuffling that has to happen as we have to pivot based on the data from the CDC and the State Board of Health and COVID cases. Any questions there? So again, I just want to echo, we looked at the number of students that you guys selected based on your surveys. We looked at those teacher qualifications, and we also looked at those sizes, like what size, like for 5th grade, they still have to take the Georgia milestones. Even through this 3rd, 4th, and 5th are still testing. Our state superintendent proposed for the test to not count, and it was denied. It was rejected. So we are still held under accountability testing for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students. With that being said, I have to think differently because whether they're at home or not, there is still a Georgia milestones. And we have to make sure babies are successful either way. So what is that, and what is my thing for you right now? I need you to make sure you commit to your decision. So if you make that decision for remote, please don't flip flop, because there is a whole process that impacts the school. I just explained what happens if I end up with a whole bunch of parents that change their mind. All your kids are impacted, because we have to then redo schedules and teacher assignments and student class changes, and most importantly, the safety. Because now I have to think, oh, now I have more kids in the building at this time, so I need to figure out a new lunch schedule to make sure I have less here. Like, and it impacts instruction overall. So I'm asking every parent to commit to those decisions for the semester. I cannot echo enough how hard it is to change things, and then how horrible it feels for the teachers to be in the midst of those changes. And then the kids are the ones that really suffer, because they have to then learn a new teacher. They have to then, like, that movement because of adult decisions should not be one thing we face, because my parents should commit to whatever decision they made, and then we go from there when things change or when semester ends.
I have a question.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
took I took a screenshot of your slide that's currently showing that. Is it any way to have that on a school letterhead so that I can present that to my job in case they say, as an employer, you have the option for your child to go to school. We no longer want to provide you whatever, credentials they've given you based off of the COVID-19. I can then say, no, my school is absolutely supporting that we elected to have our kids stay home.
So here, yeah, I mean, the district, it's on the district website too. And so,
Perfect.
matter of fact, before we end, like, because they've had the face-to-face elections website, I'll drop that. And actually, Miss Freeman, do you know that website? Can you look it up real quick
Girl, I was just about. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say,
and
girl.
drop it in the
I'm
chat?
looking
Because
it
our
up right
district has
now.
posted it, and they really, really are encouraging parents to make this election and stick to your election and do a semester commitment. I also, the letter I sent to you guys via the email blast, I have it in there as well, so you can, and it's on my school letterhead sent from me. If you need a signed version, I have no problem with that. But I like, you let me know. Just, you know how to email me, and you know how to just call me. But no, this is way bigger. And I understand jobs trying to get back to work, but
Yep.
I also need them to understand. So this is what the schools are facing, and you guys as parents, you are in an even tighter situation. But some of my teachers are parents too.
Right.
And it is taxing. This is hard. And I
I
know
get
that, which is why I want to support you. So just call me if there is an issue, and I will do what I can to get you whatever it is you need, or help you navigate to find it already, because it is in writing per the district.
yes, ma'am. Thank
Anything
you.
that I share from the top down. So I got it from the district back to you.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Wallace.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, this is Takai and Maria's grandmother.
Hey there.
Hi. I recently took on a task recently to try to help both of them at the same time.
Uh-huh.
And they're in two different. I heard you about the scheduling, the issue that would cause if you change your mind. But because right now they're in two different classes, but now that I'm going to be the one to help them, would that cause you a problem if I request them to be put in that same one classroom so they'll be doing the same assignments that are two different teaching styles?
Can we talk a little offline so I can figure out what their schedules look like currently?
Okay. Okay. That'd
Okay,
be
so do
fine.
me a favor.
Thank
Can you, Freeman, do you mind dropping her, or at least writing that down so I know to contact her?
I absolutely will. Would you mind putting that in the chat for me? And I'm gonna make sure Mrs. Wallace gets it right now.
you. Okay.
Your number or
In
your
that
contact
dojo
information.
chat. In that dojo chat.
I don't, I
Just give me 2 seconds. I didn't want you to say your number out loud. Give me 2 moments.
Okay. All right. Okay.
because you
Go
can
ahead, Miss
also
Wallace.
email me. So you know what, Miss Freeman, the easiest thing, send her my email address and it'll come straight to me solely.
Will do perfectly.
And in
Okay.
that way,
Thank
I
you.
can figure out if we could do some scheduling or just see what's going on, because they're siblings. Is
Okay.
that what I'm understanding?
Right.
And they're in the
But they
same
got different.
grade?
Right. One got
Okay.
Mr. Stevens, the one got Miss Williams. I would like for both of them to be in Miss Williams.
so that you have the same assignment.
Right.
Okay.
Because I was
Okay.
trying
So
to
let
help
me
Maria,
try to
and
figure
it was a
out
little
what we
hard.
can do because I got and I can't just make that decision. I have to look at the numbers too to see what
Right.
their
That's what I was
enrollments
saying.
are. So I will check
Right.
on that, but that makes me put things in context so we can kind of see how we're looking.
Okay, baby. Thank you so much.
No problem. All right. And I kind of went over this already. So again, you guys, you will hear about if your child's class had to change or the model had to change by Friday. I am pushing my teachers to make these phone calls to let you know because we are finalizing the schedule because we've had some parent changes that cause us to kind of have to change again. So that's why I'm asking for that commitment because it is hard. We've had to reschedule like classes 4 times already in a week just because of the constant changes that are going back and forth. And the difference in between 5 kids might not seem like 5 kids with changes might not be a lot to you, but that could be the difference between 5 additional bodies when we're trying to stay socially distanced and keep small class sizes and not. So effective October 15th, these changes are really in full effect where they're like for if your grade level has a remote teacher only, all the remote learners will be in that homeroom. But again, we'll be making phone calls, so please answer the phones. Don't block us. And letting you guys know if there are any changes. And if there are any issues, any questions, any concerns, let me know.
Hi, how do you like my heart on it? I can put any.
Now let's the big thing too. So what's different now that we are in full face-to-face coming up next week? Once a student has enrolled in either full-time face-to-face or full-time URL, they have to have consistent attendance and engagement within that setting. So you can't say, oh yeah, my kid's coming 5 days a week, and then you decide, oh, I'm gonna keep them at home for these 3 days. They will not be allowed to attend those remote classes because they're now set up for those kids only. So if you commit to face-to-face, it needs to be face-to-face. If it's URL, commit to URL. Because no, you can't just go jump into a live because we have to think about the management, the safety, and the class. Like the work is different now because that teacher, there's one teacher now owning those remote kids or 2 teachers compared to the traditional homeroom teacher doing both. And then I just want to say that one more time. So if you are signed up for face-to-face and you decided your kid's not coming to school that day, that is considered absent like it would be if they were regular face-to-face. They're just not at school. No, they can't come and just join the virtual option. Now, your teacher can send you some work, but we can't change the whole school schedule or anything for individual parents and attendance challenges. Any questions there? All right. Another thing that I wanted, this is totally not COVID related, but I think it's important for kids to still feel spirit and them to still feel like school is a cool place to be and to love who they are. And our pandas are really proud pandas. So one of the things that we decided to do was put together a spirit where, so even if the kids at home are virtual, we decide to have a spirit day, they can wear their panda pride or the face-to-face kids. So we have a fundraiser, and the good thing about this fundraiser is proceeds come right back to the school. And PTA has kind of helped us kick this fundraiser off. So we have lots of different panda options. I've already gotten mine. You get to select the colors. I have about 7 of them already because I don't plan on wearing anything but panda spirit wear throughout this whole thing. And they're really, really, really high quality, and I love them. I'm waiting on my hoodie to arrive next because I have a pink panda shirt. I don't have to stick to red and black. You pick your colors, you can customize it, you can even put your names on the back. So just so you know, there are spirit wear opportunities for you. And then I want to just unshare and just open it up for any questions or thoughts that are resonating with you. So if you have any questions, just unmute. And I want y'all, my assistant principal, Dr. Smith, is here, and she has been instrumental with the scheduling. Doc, is there anything that you want to share as it relates to the reason why the decisions can't flop? Because I explained to them, it's a nightmare.
Yeah, absolutely. So just, it's a lot with scheduling and then the going back and forth. It has to be changed with the district because the district keeps count of all the numbers. And so when you change, the whole schedule changes for the school. So it's very important that we make a decision and stick to that decision. But I'm here to support you in whatever avenue or whatever issues that you may have.
So are there any further questions, guys? And again, I want to thank you for the time of being here and being informed. Now, you know what my heart is saying to you. So if you know someone that should have been here, like you say in church, get your friends. Say, come on in. Come on in the room, because we need our families informed, y'all. And we need them to understand this, because I can guarantee someone is going to have an issue with their child's class